Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to today's episode. Today's episode includes a little bit of coughing noises, but aside from that, it includes, I thought of a unique metaphor to see life through, and I feel more than ever now in 2020 and beyond it relates. And so I want to speak about different levels of logging into consciousness. This is a verb I'm using in the sense that we feel we wake up to the world. I feel we log into the world. We log into the world from an unknown state of intelligence. Man, our species, mankind, our species has two important relationships that it needs to find a resolution to. If these resolutions aren't found, the species will walk in the abyss clueless. One is that the strategy towards all the unknown variables in the realm, and a strategy towards all the known variables in the realm. What we call life, or what we call human life, includes a known self moving in a known world. If one of these two, out of this codependency of being a self in a world, if one of them goes more unknown than the other, the person's reality will go towards dynamism. So, human beings are logging into, when they wake up in the morning, they're logging into a known self and a known world. And, or I would say it this way maybe, this song is going, it's flying to the east too soon. Excuse me. Okay. Where was I? Logging into the known self in the known world. We log into the known world as an unknown self. Pretty much I've seen 4 types of relationships. That means on this earth, if everybody was paused like a video game and we went and saw in their inner realms, it would fall into one of these 4 categories I'm going to mention right now. What I'm saying is so important, and to many people it may seem simple, but all of life is in this. Known self, known world. Known self, unknown world. Unknown self, known world. Unknown self, unknown world. These are the 4 states. Civilization has only made it easy to live in when you have a known self and an unknown world. Any human being we see that we feel they don't know themselves, it comes across as a sort of instability in civilization. And it's not just knowing oneself. Oneself is dependent on the world. One's world is dependent on the self. So based on if a person knows more about the world, but they don't know as much about themselves, I'm thinking if you put a greater than sign, that means, let's say there's some people who know more about the world, they know less about themselves. There's some people who know more about themselves, less about the world. And let's say there's some people who know a lot about the self, know a lot about the world, and there's some people who are like, I don't know anything. It's like they don't know the self, they don't know the world. I can't tell you how many, how long I have walked in that hallway. There's something incredible about being a fool to your own life. Being a fool to others, it's not pleasant, but being a fool to yourself, you update. It's as if, imagine there was a, sticker connected to your jacket and you had no clue, and so Imagine as you're walking by, you see the sticker connected to your jacket in the reflection of like some window or something. Anywhere our attention goes, reality has an authorization to update. Because we are animate, that means in any inanimate moment we have a impulse to move things. Now, these four can be seen as different levels of consciousness logging into the realm. Those people who are in the unknown world, unknown self, they have logged out. You can't even speak to them. That means there is a sort of, at least I don't know, in my view, I've seen certain mystics and yogis that they become dehumanized. It is actually very easy to be dehumanized because we were dehumanized when we began. No child is born from the womb having a personality and like being able to create a Facebook page, you know. That means we start unknown, we end unknown, and in the middle we know some things. And so as a known self, in a known world, there is responsibility. That means if we can prepare for these angles, for these four dimensions, for these four different levels of how human creatures have logged into consciousness, how they have a relationship with their awareness that holds the world. Some say the mind is a trickster. They called it the monkey mind. And this went so far even in Zen, where some Zen disciples would in some sense meditate and they would suddenly feel their Buddha. You don't know how many people on this planet have meditated and felt their past life they were Buddha. You know, even Buddha's like, okay, that's too much. You know? So the disciple would meditate in Zen, not Buddhism. Zen is different than Buddhism, than pure Buddhism. In Zen, the Zen master, the disciple would come to the Zen master, it's like, Zen master, I just realized I'm Buddha, this is incredible. And the Zen master would look, oh yeah, you realize you're Buddha? You know, it's like, kill the Buddha. And kill the Buddha was a Zen saying. It was like a saying, let go of the truth you found within, because there's more truths. Let go of the truths you have found outside, there's more truths. For truth is not a thing. Yet what can objects do in the void other than search for things? You know, just the fact that we communicate is the most remarkable advantage. That means if we were all conscious and intelligence surpassed the body in a Descartesian mind-body dualism, if the mind was beyond this world, then it would not need to touch this world. It is so easy to let go of anything you decide. It has nothing to do with you. I can't tell you how many times I've had even certain people come and, you know, disrupt my inner serenity, and I have just stopped caring. And not caring in the sense I have stopped caring for the human being, because when another human being is rude to you, they're still a member of your species, you know. They're part of just the legacy of how far the human effort will go, regardless of what they do. Everybody is at least not writing history, but everybody's like a key being pressed on the keyboard of history, you know, based on how we do. Energy has named itself. Energy is giving a podcast. Energy has recognized it is boundless. And so on an energetic level, you know how many times I have nullified my own ambitions. That means I have aimed for something, and midway through aim, I have noticed that what I have been seeking has already been in the room. It is like the grand jewel of the Diamond Sutra, where Buddha at the end of his life went into a hysteria, and his disciples looked at him and said, Buddha, why now? Why now are you going into a hysteria where you're about to leave? You're about to pilot beyond this realm. And Buddha said, I have mistaken. And all his disciples are horrified. And Buddha had the strength. That's true teaching. He looked at his disciples and he said, all have been enlightened from the beginning. For when the drop is trying to find the ocean, when will it realize it is the ocean? So many different types of consciousness on this earth, so many different types of DNA. And in the calmness of what we have built, genius hides. That means the biggest thing I could tell you is that so many of the greatest ideas and strategies that could be implemented and instantly making civilization efficient, they are hiding in the shadows. I have logged out of my consciousness during the day, consciously, and I have also logged into other embodiments in my dream states. So let me give you an example of these. I had a dream which was one of the most strangest dreams I've had in my life. This was years ago. The dream started with a first-person point of view, but the first-person point of view wasn't in my body. That means imagine you opening your eyes in a dream state, and in the dream state your eyes are inside the body, and it was inside the face of a person I had never met. So imagine you in your dream opening your eyes, yet your eyes are as if inside the eyes of another person, somewhere where your consciousness hasn't seen, or maybe it's in your subconscious or whatever. And I remember in the dream my eyes were in the eyes of the person I was looking through. Then I slipped out. That means we don't realize our brains are like servers. And not servers as if like, sir, you want apple juice or orange juice? I mean servers in the sense of they are holding many lines of intelligent activity. That means the brain is a world, but we cannot comprehend it. And people are not sensitive, I find, because, or maybe I am oversensitive, I don't know. But what it is that if one starts in the morning having a value of their experience from zero, what I mean by that is as if you teleported right into the realm. When I wake up in the morning, that's like the aftermath of the teleportation experience. So in the dream, this is all in the dream state, my consciousness left the eyes that I found myself looking through first person. It kind of reversed back and I found myself through my own eyes in my own body in the dream. Now, what does this imply? This implies that all the relationships we cannot have in conscious reality when we wake up in the morning, in the dream state, they're authorized. That means in front of my in front of me right now there's a piece of paper and there's a pen in my hand, right? But in my inner realms, if I could show you all the geometry I'm holding up, right? So what it is, and it's not like that much, but it's I am saying that our mind has a permission to fathom that our sensory-based objective eyes don't. And so sight is way more mysterious than just a material analysis. This is why I, in some sense, will salute the analytical philosophers, because they're still philosophers, even though they have been kind of possessed by a method. By the scientific method. But I will say at the same time, the era of continental philosophy's reemergence, the archaic revival of a totally new era of philosophy. I thought about this notion that there was this show. Oh man, I'm going all over the place. Okay, I'll go with this line of thought. there was this show called Black Clover. It's this Japanese comic book made into this anime, and in this comic there's a magical universe. Like, as if right now we feel there's no magic in the universe, you gotta pay for magic shows. But in this universe it's the opposite. It was set in medieval times, and sort of think of a magical medieval kind of universe. And in this magical medieval universe, they had this kind of narrative where there was a kingdom and there was an actual king, and then there was a wizard king. There was this concept. That means there were two kings. One king was only on the fence of the ability and the defenses of the system, and the other was in some sense more of a symbolic representation. That means not all kings get to be kings. Get to be true kings. But anyways, in that story there was a notion of two kings. Now this is unheard of in human history. Two kings sitting on the same throne, impossible. You can't have two lions on the same, two tigers on the same mountain. But in this narrative, there was this concept of a wizard king, and the wizard was the whole theme was magic. Basically, all the different characters were born with different magic, just like in normal civilization, we have different talents. Then I thought about, wait a minute, let's forget this anime fictional realm. Let's for a second look at our current realm and wonder what could be the parallel representation of not a double monarchy, but two dimensions to royalty. Now, royalty, of course, we have moved past that era, and but it doesn't mean for the mind, the royalty of the mind is gone. That means kings no longer wear crowns, but in lore, in language, in the linguistic simulation, there's still many kings alive in the minds of men. Because ultimately man is playing with symbology only to realize he is the creator of the meaning of the energy that he puts forth. So I thought about what is equivalent to a wizard king in this modern times. That means, let's say we have in the future sort of global unity. I gave one talk about this. A sort of event will come where it's just species will realize it makes more sense. Like, we were always united. It's like there's the separation was the additional dimension. Unity is not something we gotta do. It's more like something we gotta remember as our beginning was. Nature dreams, but it dreams when it's awake. Excuse me. I thought about the concept of magic coming from language's introduction to the human psychology. There's this concept of spells and magic, and there's this concept that children are taught spelling. And when somebody, for example, this is all in the English language, like when we, for example, insult someone, we call that cursing, right? So there is a sort of magical undertone to the language that man is using, even currently. Now, I thought if language can be seen as magic, it kind of makes sense. We're not like beings that have an ability to look at a still pond and raise our hand, and the whole water of the pond becomes the shape of our hand, like a giant hand. It's like we don't have that ability, but what we do is we have the ability to perceive it in our inner realms and to communicate. So language in some sense is the magic of the time. And so I thought about what was philosophy's relationship with magic, and philosophy was using language as if like Thor's hammer had accidentally fallen from the heavens and man had found a tool for the first time to create a question for the world. That means philosophy was like the earliest questions, the true questions of the realm. It was like a giant waking up, And so I thought, what if in civilization we have the idea at post-global unity that there is a sort of human, just mere human. That means we have an intelligence symbol for just what it means to be the simple human and what it means to be the complex. So what it means is that the thin king that was thinking realized that it is an era for, I think, a philosophical I don't know what the term is, unit. I feel we need an incredible giant renaissance in language all over the planet, and human beings need to realize that we are not just objects moving, we're not just candles melting. The glow this candle is providing, the flickering candle flame is upon us. That means intelligence is like your mind gives off a glow and you exist in that glow. And if you care for more than your mind's might, you have to confront the darkness beyond it to see more. Because in this world, you remain where you are if you're an infinite being. That means if everybody for a moment considered that this was a multidimensional realm and the opposite of the algorithm of what we see currently in society. That means we're temporary beings wondering we're eternal. Now imagine we're eternal beings wondering we're temporary. If we were eternal, that technically means there's nothing to lose. It means energy cannot be lost. At the same time, it also implies the non-necessity of the individual. That means individualism is only for the temporary. That which is beyond the temporary is not individual. If there is a chance, whatever percentage, the smallest chance that we are more than our individualism, then there is a state, there is a viewer within oneself, or as the presence of the whole moment, and it's as if what's in the moment changes like a sphere, but what the moment is doesn't. I can tell you from the beginning of this life, I have seen myself change. I have seen others change. I have even noticed my inner realms change, the inner realms of the world change. But I have never seen my sight change. I should say that differently. I have never seen the seer of my sight change. It's as if the whole time I have been living, there is an invisible witnessing of all that is visible. It's as if an invisible wind is going through manifestation, and we think we are just the, after effect. So human beings are logging in to this elemental video game. This video game that consists of particles ultimately and waves. So what it means is that human beings should have contentment in seeing the notion of consciousness as a wave, as a signal, and seeing the body as an antenna. I am telling you, if you do this, you free yourself from having to be the thought when you have it. Most people cannot look at a thought and not be it. This even goes to explain all those people who their fragmented psychology makes them act upon the different layers of self what they perceive in their inner realms. I have seen that there is a thin line of being human, and usually if a person is not treated like a human being after a couple times, their moral nature descends. When their moral nature descends, they give in to their inner realms appearing in the outer realms. That means there needs to be a preservation of what from the inner goes to the out. It's like a piloting. It's like you're holding the door. You're like a bouncer of your own mind in regards to what words are allowed access to the club of the outer realms. All men die. Everybody dies. That's not the surprise. The surprise is who lived before they died. Who found out what was living. And that is the grand mystery. I feel everybody. We could be anywhere in the world. Deep down, we're looking at this vastness and being like, what do we do with it? Ultimately, everybody's wondering this, I find. Even the nihilist, even the person who's like, hey, it's all meaningless, who said it has to have meaning? I see nothing here than before everything. And it's fine, but nothing requires everything to be meaningful. That means the concept of nothing cannot exist unless there was first something to then not be. This is why if religion, the concept of religion was vanished, you know how many atheists would be out of work? You know? So it would be we have to care, you know, for the jobs of the future. I'm telling you that the species will wake up into realizing we're multidimensional. Goku will realize he's Super Saiyan. Okay, when when we realize we have a multidimensional ability, the next thing is to use what you're aware of. So you see, there's some people on the planet who they just see the empty page. There's some people who see the empty page, but they also see a pen. And then there are those who see the pen, see the empty page, and they're like, why are these here? And then they realize the activation of their intelligence is the only possible reason. That means it's as if we have opened our eyes with a unique tool in the hand of the unknown. And it's as if the person went to heaven and the person asked and said, God, can I ask a question? And God said, yes, you can ask any question. And man said, God, if you are within us, why do you keep watching yourself break? And so it is man's flaw. It is the human story that scares us. Beyond it, it's too unknown to be afraid. Do you believe it that the world becomes too unknown to be able, if you're honest with your own fear, you will realize you can't even fear what you can't fathom. It's like, who's afraid of an invisible alien, you know? You know? But when imagine like in the movies, like the alien suddenly appears, people are like, oh my god, what am I looking at? You know, like they freak out. I feel language is going to evolve.
This being human is a guest house.
Okay, this music needs to change. There we go. This song's pulling me to the future. Different human beings logging into different states of mind. These states of mind, 50% you have control, 50% you don't. The 50% you don't, one must study the world, understand its movements, and learn to walk with it and serve it. After one serves the world will become an ally, and then the world will serve you. This doesn't mean that there's an expectation of an image of a consequence. It means that intelligence finds itself beyond itself. The moment it does, a new type of life begins. This new life doesn't mean it's ideologically oriented. It's as if you evolve from the need to ever think about a thought anymore, and you notice something more about the game. And so when the rawness of your experience, that means, here's the thing, many people won't ask for enlightenment, for truth. What I will tell you, they don't know what they're asking for. To ask for enlightenment means to ask, why is the light in your eyes being anything at all? And to recognize instantaneous being has no explanation. Only duality can be explained. Our explanations exist in duality. I sometimes feel that when I wake up, like when I'm conscious in a dream state, I have logged into my mind, my mind's reality. I am living in the inner realms when I'm having a dream. I am living in there. But when I wake up in the morning, I am in the bodies. My eyes are pointed towards the outer realms by design. So in the dream state, the mind is creating a body which you are embodying and moving in. That means, look at how advanced the brain is, that we sleep and the mind creates a body which we can move as. Like, that is remarkable. Now, when we wake up, because the body is the first wave of information that hits us, we feel we woke up from the dream. We don't realize the mind is still continuing. That means, what if we were dreaming 24/7 and we woke up conditionally? That means the dream state, reality's dreaminess, reality's unknown dreamlike nature is like the first information we imagine. But because we wake up in the body, that becomes the pilot. That becomes the body goes into the driver's seat. The person has to avoid their mind to be a body. Because if you're a mind, how can you say you're just a body? You see the dilemma. Beyond ambitions made of language, there is multidimensional, experiential presence that surpasses any ideological containment. Language is 1/4 of the realm, yet we have built a civilization just based on this 1/4. That means civilization is a quarter of the truth. Civilization 1.0, civilization 2.0 hopefully won't stand up until it has the 4 corners uncovered. In front of our eyes, the world turns us. Behind our eyes, we turn the world. I would like to go into a quote tunnel of Sufi mystic quotes. I found a PDF where I had these, and I thought of sharing. It's not just, I wouldn't say it's just Sufi quotes, but I'm going to go into a unique quote tunnel right now. Never stay on the barren heights of cleverness, but come down into the green valleys of silliness. Ludwig Wittgenstein. Rumi, if you want the moon, do not hide from the night. If you want a rose, do not run from the thorns. If you want love, do not hide from yourself. That means sometimes it's not about the person running away from defeat or never being defeated. It's that you get the taste of defeat and then your reality readjusts. Joseph Rain says, open your mind and the world will understand you. Open your heart and the world will love you. Release your ego and the world will become you. And even though I said Sufi quotes, it's going to get there, guys. I think it's abandoned, guys. Swami Vivekananda, the highest men are calm, silent, and unknown. They are the men who really know the power of thoughts. They are sure that even if they go into a cave and close the door and simply think 5 true thoughts and then pass away, these 5 thoughts of theirs will live through eternity. Indeed, such thoughts will penetrate through the mountains, cross the oceans, and travel through the world. Buddha, as solid rock remains unmoved by the wind, so the wise remain unmoved by blame and praise. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, in peace and silence, the skin of the eye, in quotations, dissolves, and the inner and outer become. Rumi. There we go, the Sufi doors. Rumi says, someone asked, what is love? God answered, you will know when you lose yourself in me. Rumi's a poet from 700 years ago, guys. Rumi says, if the beautiful one is not inside you, then what is that light hidden under your cloak? Shri Ananda Mahima, if the breath and the mind become one-pointed and steady, then the mind expands to infinity. Guru Padmasambhava. You may possess the power and might of a world ruler, but unless you gain mastery over your own mind, when the time of death arrives, you still haven't attained the power of freedom. William Blake. What is now proved was once imagined. Saint Jerome. The face is the mirror of the mind, and the eyes without speaking confess the secrets of the heart. Chung Tzu says, we cling to our own point of view as though everything depended on it, yet our opinions have no permanence. Like autumn and winter, they gradually pass away. Neil Armstrong. Mystery creates wonder, and wonder is the basis of man's desire to understand. Yeah, that's the. I gotta just pause here for a moment. Wonder. When Neil Armstrong says wonder is the basis of man's desire to understand, this is the secret to knowing. You don't care to know the truth of anything that is not important to you. That means one's truth is disguised behind what is important prior to they have an explanation. You see, there's this whole deep view that the child actually speaks an emotional language prior to learning the language that society requires in the context of communication. The emotional language I find comes from temperature. The child is cold, warm. That's the first duality that is finding it. And it's as if the mind and body are like a sphere, where the mind is inside a sphere. Imagine mind is called sphere M and body is called sphere B. And sphere B is bigger than sphere M, and sphere M is inside sphere B. Now, as the child grows, and when the child looks in the mirror, that is the first time sphere M and sphere B have become the same size. As the child starts cultivating memory, the sphere gets bigger and bigger and bigger than the body. And the only way a person can have fear is because they have noticed more than their body. If you could not notice more than your body, you could not notice there is anything to be afraid of. So it's a testament to how the mind has expanded beyond the body. So that means at the beginning of life, your mind is inside your body. At the end of life, your body is inside your mind. The mind has grown so much bigger that the same relationship the mind had with the body, now it's archaically reviving for the body and the mind, right? And this is a sort of notion that the mind is like a river, the body is like a drop. And so it's as if we start off as a drop with the fear of evaporation, but in how we utilize our life force and how we direct and pilot our attention, we find ourselves to be not a drop waiting for evaporation, but that the work of the mind, the body, is like a pen in the hand of the artist, or a brush in the hand of the, let's say a pen in the hand of the writer. And when the pen runs out of ink, what does the writer do? Instantly, the eternal being grabs another temporary pen, and starts writing. So, but until the work is complete, a sort of recognition that the ultimate enlightenment has to do with what happens to your whole moment. And it's so remarkable how our minds are designed to be the whole moment. Because our minds are being the whole moment, that is why we have empathy. If our minds could, let's say, the brain was worked in, let's say, this is not in our universe, maybe it's in another parallel universe, but imagine that brains saw everything, but then, based on their own instinctual discretion and habit, they veiled. That means this is the hilarious thing, that truth has never gone anywhere. Truth is standing in the room. Man has covered his eyes with language. So, let's say we find a human being in society, that this human being, and whoever's listening, entertain the inner realm and outer realm, and I'll get to the quote tunnel after this one. Now that we know that behind our eyes there's a subjective realm, which I call the inner realms, and in front of our eyes there's a objective realm, which I call the outer realms, we can totally discriminate and first of all have compassion, not for just how the bodies of human beings behave, but how the minds of human beings are. This is true advancement in civilization. This is a true culture. You see, where it is not burdening itself by distracting itself through inefficiency. Because the brain is so advanced, you want to see something wrong, you can infinitely see something wrong. Do you know? That means, I'm telling you, with a person's mind, it's like literally the person has to choose the direction of the steering wheel. If you want to see things negatively, the brain will be like, all right, we're going into a -5, let's do this. And suddenly you'll notice everything you see, you can see chaotic dimensions in it. I'm telling you, chaos and order are everywhere. It's just the eyes of man that is choosing what road he walks. That means if the ancient saying said there's gods in the walls, and if God is everything, that means everything is in everything. There is nothing that could be hidden. There is no way we could have lied on this earth. I am telling you, nobody can hide anything. It's as if the body is clothed in actual clothing. The mind is clothed in language. The soul, it cannot be clothed. It cannot be. It's not individual. The soul's essence. Because the essence of nature is a mysterious animate force, and this is why mythology and legend is cool. If everything was known, we'd look at mythology and be like, look at our ancestors, look at how foolish they were. But were they foolish? They were not foolish. In the void, they had come up with that artwork so far. It's literally like attention, an attributeless attention, like a squirrel, is running from different branches. I feel we don't realize it, but we, because it's like we want to be neurons. We don't realize it, but deep down subconsciously, I feel when we behave like a brain, and that means we treat the mind's, let's say the body was a battlefield, the mind was a battlefield, and let's say the soul is an unknown field. We don't know if there's a battle there or not. In the battlefield of the body, the strategy is simply left to everybody's trying to survive and get by, but if we can build a collective system that does the labor of survival for us, there will be more time for minds and new mind-based actions. Right now, it's as if our mind is being used to preserve our body. Imagine technology and society becomes incredible. Imagine everything becomes automated. Capitalism somehow gets detached from human nature. People were like, how? Why is it? How is capitalism no longer hurting people? And we're like, because all the employees are robots now. Right? Because the employees are robots, it's as if the person doesn't suffer in that economical sector. Right? So that means man is being moved to the creative domains. It's as if instead of us moving towards the pure lands are coming to us. I'm telling you, the moment one sees chaos, they have given permission for higher order to enter the realm. The moment one sees order, they have given permission for higher chaos to enter the realm. And this chaos and order will stay because it is the nature of the room. Beyond this room, I'm telling you, who says life has to be chaotic and ordered? Who says those concepts as a filter of perception are even required? I will tell you there's states of mind in this realm that have nothing to do with the human identity. They are simply just pure design, pure geometry. It's just stuff in space moving. Right? And when you come to that point, that is a sort of purity of thought, where thought can no longer be thought. I wouldn't say creativity. Sveta in the chat section says creativity is a beast. No. Creativity is the retaliation of the living mystery against the beast. That means that I wondered, you see in so many movies, like let's say Batman is fighting the Joker. Okay, now let's say the Joker is OP. The Joker is overpowered and Batman's like, I can't defeat this guy. This guy's like, crazy. So what you do is that Batman has a strategy of finding someone stronger than Batman, being like, hey, Superman, hey, you want to save the world today? Superman's like, no, I got this news article, I gotta write it. It's like, Batman's like, you asshole. But I'm joking. But I'm saying either Batman has either the small order that cannot, the order that can't defeat the chaos, either the order has to find a greater order, or the order has to find a strategy that makes a greater chaos, which has chaotic authorization to bring the greater chaos. That means there is a way for those who walk the middle way on this planet, where when it comes to karma, if there is something ordered happening, the greater order takes care of it. If there's something chaos happening, the greater chaos happens. What that means is, imagine the child of your best friend at childhood, since childhood, is being rude to you in front of you and your best friend. The child of your best friend is being rude to you, and let's say you are childhood friends, And so it's like that moment where you as the person, you don't say anything, you just smile at that little kid, But the parent, your best friend, the parent comes and takes care of that ignorant child, right? And that's just a metaphor. I'm just saying an example. With children, always be nice. That's the whole rule. Any child you see, just show niceness to their psychology, because the mind is not ready to be exposed to things, so it overwhelms and it goes into anguish. That means the healthiest way a brain is to function, especially in this current society, is through a multidimensional tolerance for figuring out together as we live what it means to be humanity. Right? It's like a person can't say, I know what it means to be a human being. It is in your living that it is the answers there. So there's different strategies. Either a greater chaos handles the bigger chaos, comes and brings the karma of the smaller chaos. Either the greater order brings it, So or the order finds a way, and ultimately, I will tell you, a war will continue until people, for no reason, stop hitting back. For no reason at all. That means it's like the person's like trying to logically explain why they shouldn't, go to war. Imagine like when I say war, I don't mean like on a military level. I mean in the sense of something from the inner realms wanting to be thrown at the outer realms. So it means discontentment has led to a full change. So when it comes to human reality, due to its arbitrary context, which every brain simulates for itself, tolerance and letting go. I'm telling you, if those who are the advanced communicators among humanity, they are those who they care regardless. That means they look at the moment from a dualistic angle, they see the right and wrong. They look at it from the singular angle, they see how it's all just one meaning, present event. They could look at it from the void, it doesn't mean anything when the species is going to go extinct. And they can even look at it in the sense that each of these beings have an infinite value. That means, how do we create judgment for infinite beings, right? And there was something in I don't know, like in one of the Superman movies, there was something where they were banished into like a black hole or something. Like, time is a privilege. Time is an honor. People should be honored that they're existing in the space-time continuum. Now, that honor should have momentum. So the best thing. So here's the thing: best case scenario, we have, you know, this is a okay. Let's say first best case scenario, we have 8 billion human beings unite, and you know, it's beyond language. So we have 8 billion united human beings. The human species finds itself in the proper mirror of the world. Then the other best thing is these 8 billion human beings are not just united and just sitting in their homes doing nothing. It's that 8 billion human beings use their unity. So after we establish global unity, we need to use that global unity. Because there's no point of having energy which comes and goes and not implementing it and not using it when it happens. For me, believe it or not, when it comes to, I would say, the karmic nature of the realm, it's a whack-a-mole in accordance to your decency. That means if you can see something, and the best thing is a person should move in a way where they don't have time to doubt. That means I sometimes thought, why is like the archetype of the cobra, like in Buddhist pictures and Buddhist paintings, there's a depiction of Buddha is sitting down and it's raining and a giant cobra is acting like an umbrella over his head. And I was like, whoa, you know, cobras were the first umbrellas, you know. No, probably leaves were the first umbrella. But what I'm trying to say is that the cobra has an instantaneity in it. There's something in life where the more instantaneous something is, the more amazing it is. I don't know why the species is fascinated with the instantaneous. If something develops 4.5 billion years, it's not a big surprise. It was expected. But if suddenly a human creature appeared out of nowhere, we'd be like, whoa. It's like we couldn't even see an explanation to it. And you know what it is? It's like trying to find the truth in life. It's trying to wonder about, look at how the mind works. The mind, a person, like right now, I could say the word apple. Just random word apple. A person can see an image of an apple. Now somebody comes and says, hey, you just said apple. This is your philosophy. You know, where did this philosophy come from? And we're starting to realize how from the unknown, just like from silence, you need to be aware of the silence in the room before you can speak. You know, that means there's a difference between, this is why I don't like swimming in the ocean. It kind of like, you know, my mind isn't at ease because I don't know the edge of the swimming pool, you know. There is no hero's journey anymore. The species is maturing beyond the hero's journey in the sense that the hero's like, okay, everybody's a hero journey. Everybody is the hero of their own life, you know. Everybody is their own champion, you know. Sveta says, being faced with the trial one cannot resolve without God's intervention. What are your thoughts on this notion? I feel that God's intervention would mean something unknown is adjusting things. That means those people who want unknown management of their life, you know, you can pray. But I will tell you, implement all your strategies, all your possible strategies, max out your efforts, then pray. I feel that's it. Try everything out, then pray. That means it's as if there's a saying that I mean we got to think about this in such a bigger context, that what we call God is the first relationship of groups of human beings with a universal identity. That means the first time the universal self was noticed, and then a relationship established, and everybody, like, think of all the religious people in history. There's been a lot, right? There's billions of religious people at the moment, but now in history, when you look at it, there were times there were those civilization was just religion. Religion was the backbone of civilization. People were like, what story do we tell ourselves? Okay, let's use the story of this unique event that happened, you know? And so that story was essential. People don't realize how religion was like was in some sense helping our species like a child learn to walk. It was necessary, and even its chaos and order was necessary, because we don't know where to draw the lines of meaning. This is why I'm saying either we stay in duality and be good and bad till the end of time. That means, oh yeah, that person said the right thing, that person said the wrong thing. Or we're like, no, the mind is multidimensional. Every person's attention can look at something from multiple angles. We look at an object from multiple angles. What? We can't look at a subject from multiple angles? But if we can look at a subject from multiple angles, we're not a certain subject, right? And we have built a civilization in the obsession of subjects having to be like a proper like Tetris game, you know, where everybody's winning their own Tetris game of what thoughts they, you know, aligned. I'm telling you, when is the world soul gonna roar? So Sveta, I would encourage you to ask a specific question, just one simple question, and then I can respond to it. For all those who write in the chat section, write a question and put MW in front of it, and I'll try to Cobra answer it, you know. Okay. Back to the different levels of consciousness. There was this idea where this, I would say, is the main part. This was what really inspired it. I was thinking of really life as a video game again, and I was thinking, okay, so in a video game, some video games, not all video games, and especially video games that are not multiplayer and online, in these video games there is a difficulty selection, as if difficulty, easy, you know, intermediate, you know, hard, and then expert. Like there's different classifications. Let's say easy, you know, intermediate, or what was it? It was like beginner. Let's say beginner, like an easy mode, you know, a beginner mode and a hard mode, whatever. Just. I'm tearing apart my own metaphor. So, like this video game, you can select the difficulty level, and I thought, what if karma and the soul, what in ancient esoteric circles they considered as the soul's maturity and originality. It's as if there are people selecting different levels. See what my iced cappuccino has to say. Oh my god. Okay. I'm suggesting that life is a multiplayer online video games. Behind our eyes, we're behind the computer screen. An unknown viewer is witnessing the screen of life where there is a character and a story, and it has to engage the story to be alive. So when we wake up in the morning, we log into this multiplayer online elemental video game. Now I'm saying, what if before we entered the game there was a pre-selection of the intensity, the difficulty of it, and could it be that in the Buddhic view or the Vedic view where they see reincarnation, a person's prior life is in some sense suggesting how easy and the different levels of their karma. Okay, there's even a view of this karma where the person's like, when I don't know who I am, what does that mean? The unknown has karma for the unknown. But when the person knows who they are, then there comes a karma with it. You cannot be a shape in a changing world and not have karma. So the only way out of karma is to recognize the shape and center. So that means, imagine the character that is logged into the human consciousness. And imagine this to be like something like cyberspace. Cyberspace in the future develops, and now imagine it develops in a timeless way. Imagine a timeless cyberspace is how we are consciously logging in. That means it's very strange. The moment we choose to see life like code, I'm telling you, when genetics is perceived as code, our future is machine. Our future is in the machine. Which means if the future is timeless, it can communicate to any moment in time. It means that the human life is only between, the human ideology only exists between the past and the present. If the future is timeless. If the future is timeless, people have known nothing other than just the past and the present. That means the future, that right now if I'm speaking about the future, this is my past in some sense trying to see the future. Right, I'm trying to pull the strings of the geometry prior to the emotional filtering of what something has to mean to me, a character in the story. A person has to become their ally. A person has to become an ally of their body, an ally of their mind, and an ally of their unknown soul. When you become an ally of the unknown, it means you are trusting the presence of universal intelligence before human intelligence. Those people who trust human intelligence before universal intelligence, their creativity is limited because their whole effort of their mind is going to try to fit into the known puzzle when there's unknown puzzle pieces, you know? That means there's no such thing as a creative person and a non-creative person. There's just human beings that have noticed that life is unknown first before known, so it's endless exploration, endless creativity. And those who think it's known first before unknown, they're like, we don't have time for that, go on. You know, it's like, who doesn't like sitting in the comfortable chair of knowledge, you know, and ignoring the unknown? You know, that means this is why I look at the educational systems of today, and I don't say they're good and bad, but I can you know, there's a scent of cowardice in the educational systems. They have silenced not only the continental philosophers. That means there needs to be a philosophical revolution. A sort of philosophy is so important, you know, and scientists who are rude to philosophers, you are rude to where science branched out of. Philosophy is the most ancient branch of knowledge, one of the earliest. It's the trunk. Philosophy is the trunk of knowledge, I would say. Everything else is a branch of knowledge. Because from the question of what's going on, the world started going on. That means, imagine 8 billion human beings, all these dimensions I was saying early on, the 4 levels. Imagine the species manages to do this. We accept anybody who knows themselves and knows the world. We accept any human being excuse me, that knows their self but doesn't know the world. This is all children in the room. And we accept all those who don't know themselves but know the world. And Oh, excuse me, I messed that up. Okay, I'll say it again. We accept all those people who know themselves and know the world. This is the idea of the ideal citizen. A citizen that knows themselves and knows their world and can function in that system which has a structure, and they are not attached or defined by the structure. They can function through it. So that's the known self and the known world. We accept all human beings who don't know their self but know the world. Or excuse me. Oh my god. I should probably say excuse me to the power of N. Alright, I'm gonna give this one more try. The advanced civilization accepts. Acceptance means it doesn't matter. You are a life force, we accept. We accept life in this realm. We honor life and those who serve and live for it. The advanced civilization not only rewards but honors back. That means honor requires reciprocation or it dies. So, we accept all human beings who know themselves and who know the world. We accept all those human beings who know themselves but don't know the world. This is children. We accept all those human beings who don't know themselves but know the world. And we accept all those human beings who don't know themselves and don't know the world. And if we can build this civilization that accepts all these, we have built the most advanced. It's as if forget art in museums, civilization is the artwork, we're the masterpiece that will lead to us mastering this. Art is now philosophy, art, language, geometry. These four are, it's their time in civilization. These four themes, these four views. I'm telling you, it's like now it's the era of the I don't know, in some of my talks, because I saw it's a design issue. Our suffering, our collective suffering is a design issue. So Sveta, in the chat section, I encourage you, just ask one ultimate question and I'll try to give an answer. But anyways, now think about what this would mean. Those people who know themselves and know the world, oh my god, look at that incredible human being. You know, we clap for that human being. Those people the children who know themselves but don't know the world, we're like, oh, you know, they're gonna learn. they're gonna see how messed up the planet is eventually, you know. So we have a way where right now civilization knows how to. We have a lot of great parents in the world right now. Right. So this is taking place now. The next thing is those people who don't know themselves but know the world. Now, these are people who their psychology is just calculating the right and wrong only by seeing the world and not in them. That means this is very unique, that when we if imagine the concept of thinking was an equation. So imagine on a blackboard, whenever you were articulating something, like equations were being written on that board. Okay? Now imagine in this equation, the person has missed themselves in the equation. You know, there should be an unknown variable that will forever be unknown because it's the one conducting the equation that has an influence on the equation. You know, so that means those people who don't see themselves, they see the world, they becomes a bit intense and savage. Not intense and savage, they become intense, and their intenseness can be used for savageness. And what do I mean by this? For example, certain horrifying figures in history, for example, the world wars, those started the whole propaganda that led to it was, in some sense, it was pretty much people did not see how they were a human being before they were anything else. When this is forgotten, this simple line of view is forgotten, so it's important to know yourself and to let yourself fail to kind of see how if you're it's like there's no such thing as failure really. There's just stepping into dimensions you've never stepped before, and you're updating yourself based on the geometric feedback of what happens. This is why designers don't get emotional. A designer may look at an alien spacecraft. Let's say, here's the difference. Imagine a human being, like a person looks at a spacecraft, oh my god, it's so cool, you know, and then we have a designer look at the spacecraft and it's like, okay, it's like emotion, it's cool, right, but what is it, right? And that question of what am I looking at is where true understanding lies. That's the door that requires to not be opened. You already see yourself through the doorway. Okay, so I'm gonna take a breather by answering the chat question. So Sveta says, when one finds oneself talking to the this is in the chat section, when one finds oneself talking to the representatives of the most conflicted places on earth, one feels responsibility one doesn't know. WTF question mark. Okay, I don't know, really, it's kind of like, I don't know how to perceive the question in your statement, but I can say that I have experienced moments where I have tested the chaos of my mind, not in the outer realms, in my inner realms. That means I've sat somewhere still and I'm like, let me see how I see myself in a world where there's chaos and order. And what has taken place is that a bunch of perspectives have arose. And these perspectives, in one angle, I will tell you, when you see when the reality is filled with like the percentage of chaos is more than order, you cannot see order. You cannot see order if there's more chaos in the room by definition. So one has to start from the order and wonder why if there is order it is seeing chaos. That means I don't know how many people wonder, why am I looking at what I am looking at? This is one of those ultimate wake up questions, you know. The question of who am I, it's like an alarm clock. It finds us, we get alarmed about our existential condition in certain moments in life, and then we press snooze. And then we go back to sleep. And then again, there comes this concern, okay, is the world becoming more known? I mean, isn't it hilarious that our educational system is in some sense focused on the known, and we're teaching people so much about the known, but the ending and the outcome of life is unknown. That means life is going towards an unknown position, but we're like, okay, well, we're alive, you know. So there has to be unknown studies as much as known studies. And there will always be roots to the tree of knowledge in soil that we can't see. I mean, the moment scientists, like this is something it was so strange for me. The moment you have an unobservable universe, you deny the rejection of any idea. This is the most thing this is what the dangers of the scientific method's expansion without philosophical guidance. there should be this saying that they say, a philosopher may be a minimalist in the outer realms, but the value of the philosopher in society is that they carry many eyes, many modalities to the realm. What you do with chaos is you accept it like a puppy. When one notices there is a presence beyond chaos and order, chaos doesn't know that presence is here, so it's like a child. So chaos and order, they both become youth. They become like kids that didn't know better, dimensions of intelligence that just implemented unconsciously. Because it's like a command, it's like you know what chaos and order feels like? It feels like two dimensions are interlinked. And so we are like we're like the creatures born between two worlds, It's like our whole species and dimension is like the portal. Imagine we're living inside a portal, not in the other side of the portal or that side of the portal, just that instantaneous multidimensional possibility of world. So the unknown self and the unknown world. For the conscious individual, the most healthiest way of acknowledging it is that the unknown is unknown. And you can know the unknown, just like how we say, when in Rome, be Roman. One can know the unknown when they're unknown. So when one has a contentment with how their intelligence could potentially surpass any idea they have on it, then it becomes like we care about how our eyes have played the game so far. We are alive once. There is no greater motivation. Our energy, everything in the day happens once. And in Greek mythology, there was this idea of Atlas. And Atlas was made to carry this giant boulder up this mountain, and he would carry it, and then the boulder was the weight of the world, and then we would get to the point, and I don't remember exactly, I think an eagle would eat his liver, and then he would fall down, and then it would start again. I don't know, some unique design of a Greek mythos, but so I find that the way that we have found the ego is Atlas. The ego is Atlas. And the ego is carrying every day the burden of the meaning of the whole world. And so at the end of the day, it descends back into the unknown. Right? So it's pretty cool that it's like human life is literally like the movie Matrix, but we don't realize it. It's like we wake up, so that's like plugged into the Matrix, and then we sleep, and then it's like that's plugged out of the Matrix, out of that whole contextual, subjective landscape of our dreams and ambitions. That means anytime you're in deep sleep, you are beyond your And so I find style is important in culture now, and to a global effort to find the original earth, because the original earth is silent. When you find the silent earth, then language cannot touch you anymore. That is, in some sense, how the inner realms are honored and now they serve. I am telling you, your brain, whoever you are listening, whatever you are, your human brain is a unique instrument, and not only nobody else knows how to play it, you can be the only one to know how to play it. You have to master the instrument of your existence, you know. And then as we play alongside this grand symphony of a universal intent, you know, it's like aliens come down to Earth and they're like, hey, why aren't you shaking our heads? And we're like, we're too busy, you know, trying to take care of your future as well. And so we become, for the first time, the small with the big dream, you know. You know, we become like this, the small, I don't know how to word it, the small dream that dare to go towards the Great Awakening. You know, the Great Awakening of what is the truth of intelligence, not how intelligence interprets truths, how intelligence interprets truth. Anyways, I hope this episode was helpful. Life is easy if we don't make it hard. And if life is hard, it's like a rare occurrence where complexity has arrived and you can at least learn from it. That means a designer endlessly learns from unique designs out in the world. I mean, how can you not? You know, it's like when a person lives, that whole living is not just simulation, self-generation, but it is generating the world to that self as well. So how you feel about yourself will actually suggest how you feel about the world. And unless the person has a maturity to see beyond their emotions and be selfless, they will not see the world beyond how they feel about it, right? There was this story where these grandchildren decided to run a prank on their grandfather, and they put, the grandfather was sleeping, and they put a little piece of cheese with a bad odor, with a this uncomfortable odor, and they put this cheese on the mustache of the grandfather, and the kids started acting like angels. The grandfather woke up and it's like, what is the smell? Oh my god! It's like these kids are too old to be, and the kids are all acting like playing nice, and the grandfather's like, all right, these kids are being too nice out of the normal, and so the grandfather goes, oh my god, the living room stinks. Oh my god, that other room stinks. The kitchen stinks. All the rooms in the house stinks, and the person can't take it. It's like, I have to get out of this house, and the person gets out and goes out into the world, and then the person says, oh my god, the world stinks, just because of a tiny inefficient pattern in the system of the psyche. The whole person thought the world stinks. That's the moral of the story, right? Little disturbance, disharmony can make you doubt the harmony of the whole, but it's unnecessary, because the harmony of the whole surpasses human will. It is nature's will, right? Something's just like my heart right now. I don't think about my heart to beat, it beats. I don't think about this body to happen, it just happens, right? So this is the thing about nature, the grander hidden laws of nature. As nature reveals her presence to you, you see that the goddess and the god archetype are untouchable. So when it's like you for the first time become a being that, even if there was higher intelligence in this world watching, like how we watch ants, imagine something else is watching us. find the freedom you have always been, that is where the show is. That is where true intelligence is breathing. Unconditionally. Do you know what an unconditional view means? It means that, like, let's say you open your eyes, things are conditional, but if you close your eyes and, let's say, saw something, like in my inner realm, sometimes just out of my own, just, sometimes I play with my inner realms. And what I mean by that is that I've had moments where I just close my eyes and I just envision, imagine like Star Wars, where they had lightsabers, but they had the Force. So I don't understand why they were actually physically fighting when they could have just moved the lightsabers, But in my inner realms, I've seen, for example, like a bunch of swords just floating in the air, and the attention can move them at will. So the inner realm, every person's mind, it's like your imagination is your private studio, where how you look at the world is not bound to just what is in the outer realms. I'm telling you, imagination is a room. So, we surpass human suffering. Been there, done that. Okay? Individual suffering, we behave, here's the thing. Either everybody has to maintain themselves all the time and never making a mistake, or we build a civilization, again, I'm going to go back to this point, where we build a civilization that actually has our back. That means the civilization, if you make a mistake, the civilization will use that to succeed. That means, imagine the world was winning before you could even lose. So you will never lose. You see, if you live with the world. So it means we use to build a collective backup system where then we can relax and be whatever sort of individualism we like, And you know what's hilarious? I should probably make it clear. The more unknown you become, the less language defines you, by the way. That means somebody comes and says, you're a bad person, and you're like, how do you know? And the person's like, I don't know, I feel like you're a bad person. You're like, it's like, I don't even know if I'm a bad And so when we realize we're artists in the void, the wrath of judgment being this or that goes away. The individual has freedom, using that freedom, and you through the momentum of the global multidimensional renaissance, where people are starting to look at things through a multidimensional view. That means you are permitted everything and nothing. Like how it doesn't get more multidimensional than that. It's like, I get to have everything and nothing? Oh my god. It's like a deal, it's like, okay, if you buy nothing, you get everything free. If you buy everything, you get nothing for free. It's like, which deal you want. So we treat language as the video game, the linguistic simulations are called, as the video game where our minds are individually living. That means you can't function in society until you log into a humanized state, right? If you're dehumanized, you suffer in society and others suffer. This is the experience of all people who have been in altered states of mind and have walked in society. So I'm saying that this is a healthy thing. We create an epic game, and let's call it the video game of the advanced civilization, the greatest game creatures can play on this planet. I have thought about this from so many angles, and there's nothing else to do on this planet other than to see what our most advanced expression is like before we close our eyes, honestly. So the advanced civilization is what we advance civilization in the outer realms, and behind our eyes in the inner realms we advance communication. These two factors, society being treated as the video game we log into, when we come home we log out. And let me tell you what inspired me. My grandfather, on my father's side, he passed away when I was 10, and I hadn't seen him. I had a few memories, so I went to one of my cousins who had seen him a lot, and I told him, what was our grandfather like? Tell me. I have very few memories of him. And he told me that our grandfather had said something to him, and that when he comes home, he was a working man. He was blue collar kind of industrious man, and he would come home, and he said, when you come home, you take off, you put away your coat and hat, and you become a family man. That means when you come in the house, you're a family man. You literally take off your role, your psychological role, when you're in that space. And this is something that I feel some people have the aptitude for, and some people don't. So that thing of you log out of the state of mind you were functioning through, you were piloting through, and you log into the state of mind of, okay, now I'm with my family. Now the different dimensions of the being of the moment's intelligence need to be present. So, guys, I need a quick breather. I'll be back in a few minutes. Actually, guys, it might be like in 10 minutes. I'm gonna just a breather. Everybody who's listening can also take a breather. Okay. Back to the talk. So I don't know. When it comes to strategy, I feel something has to be done with what's given. That's ultimately all of life. We are something, and we need to do something. Everything we have done so far has an existential design value and has an experiential, vague emotional value. As if geometry plus emotions equals human personality. And so if we can wield our emotions, that means how we not only move as the unknown, we become the unknown. And we move with the unknown. That means I don't know what emotional, beyond the emotions, it is as if it is just the void staring at itself. If we treat civilization like an onion, and we say the first human civilization is a human one, is a humanized one, that means the first inner, the most utmost inner layer of the onion is a human-centric civilization, and then all the layers around this can change. Imagine 4 types of civilizations in one. Or 7 kinds of civilizations in one, based on how many layers the onion has. Because we are not just moving on the planet, we are moving the planet to ourselves. There is so many types of states of mind people can log into. Some states of mind you log into chemically. This is more like native shamanic metaphysics. There's some states of mind a person logs into when they actually don't do anything. When they don't do an action. I would say Taoism is more close to this, action through inaction. The less you do, the more you realize how everything is being. The more you do, you are in some sense, more your attention is more on how you're the movement in the room rather than the room where the movement is in you. And perhaps even the wisdom of the hidden pillar may find you. There's so many, I would say, forces at work here. And our awareness to them is limited because we are treating objects as arbitrarily real. The issue is not matter is unreal, the issue is the one looking at matter seems to be unreal. Like materialism makes you feel consciousness is a mirage in the desert. Immaterialism makes you feel the observable universe is the mirage in the desert. pretty much we need the three musketeers to run civilization, this whole all for one for all strategy, you know, but now implemented between the individual and its governing mind or minds. We perceive the planet, as Buckminster Fuller and Marshall McLuhan suggested, as Spaceship Earth. Everyone is treated as a crew member of Spaceship Earth, and what is the crew of Spaceship Earth doing? We are doing a giant interior design project inside the spaceship. We're making some changes, and there's some changes coming outside of the spaceship, and the greatest strategy is that if we can recreate an Earth, that makes think of how people are so fascinated. Oh my God, that inventor made an android that's like indistinguishable from a human being. And so now imagine we make a planet, a kind of technological planet-sized planet that is indistinguishable from the Earth. Imagine someone in the future became the first person who found a way to copy-paste the planet. Can you imagine? And imagine in the future the first person to control Z a planet. We are hopping from states of mind. We're jumping like the movie Jumper, teleporting into different states of what the world has to mean. Any moment there's a single change in the moment, the context changes. You know, if one is in a room and a glass falls or they hear something breaking, that changes the whole context of the room. You know, so everything in some sense readjusts all the time. To that quote I'm always reading, and then I'll end off the talk after that. Henry David Thoreau. As a single footstep will not make a path on the earth, so a single thought will not make a pathway in the mind. To make a deep physical path, we walk again and again. To make a deep mental path, we must think over and over the kind of thoughts we wish to dominate our lives. Plato says, love is the joy of the good, the wonder of the wise, the amazement of the gods. Socrates says, wisdom begins in wonder. Carl Jung says, your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. Ibn Arabi, how can the heart travel to God when it is chained by desires? Buddha, just as treasures are uncovered from the earth, so virtue appears from good deeds, and wisdom appears from a pure and peaceful mind. There's more to the quote. So, wisdom appears from a pure and peaceful mind to walk safely through the maze of human life. One needs the light of wisdom and the guidance of virtue. Sadi says, have patience. All things are difficult before they become easy. Joseph Campbell says, follow your bliss and the universe will open doors where there were only walls. Moriya Oshiba, study how water flows in a valley stream, smoothly and freely between the rocks. Also learn from holy books and wise people. Everything, even mountains, river, plants, and trees should be your teacher. Rumi says, if joy could talk, this is what she would say. It was love who gave birth to me. Jules Renard, on earth there is no heaven, but there are pieces of it. Khalil Gibran. He says, for thought is a bird of space that in a cage of words may indeed unfold its wings but cannot fly. Rumi says, there is a candle in your heart ready to be kindled. There's a void in your soul, ready to be filled. You feel it, don't you? Rumi says, what a joy to travel the way of the heart. Sri Ramana Maharshi, even the structure of the atom has been found by the mind. Therefore the mind is subtler than the atom. That which is behind the mind, namely the individual soul, is subtler than the mind. Robert H. Schuller, let your hopes, not your hurts, shape your future. Rabindranath Tagore, if you cry because the sun has gone out of your life, your tears will prevent you from seeing the stars. Imagine they ask someone, why don't you cry? He's like, I don't like moisture. Robert Maynard Persing says, we take a handful of sand from the endless landscape of awareness around us and call that handful of sand the world. Swami Shivananda, meditation is painful in the beginning, but it bestows immortal bliss and supreme joy in that. Henry David Thoreau, this world is but a canvas to our imagination. William Shakespeare, when a father gives to his son, both laugh. When a son gives to his father, both cry. Khalil Gibran says we choose our joys and sorrows long before we experience them. John Keats says the excellency of every art is in its intensity, capable of making all disagreeable evaporate. Leo Buscaglia It says your talent is God's gift to you. What you do with it is your gift back to God. Yeah, and if God is everything, it's as if whatever we are, serves everything. I mean, what greater win-win strategy is there? We serve the world serves us. So you're like, all right, the human species is getting by, We just need, when I even speak of an advanced civilization, most likely what's going to happen is there has to be a reserve of desire, because when there's the possibility of an early prototype of an advanced civilization, one has to choose, is that the hand we're going all in on? So there is so many, I don't know, the future generations hopefully are prepared, and they are. I feel that's the cool thing about nature. It cares for balance. So whatever amount of human suffering, and it's weird. It's like you can have a bad day, but at the end something weird and good happens, and the person's like, why? It's like because it's as if the person's karma finished. My grandfather. I'll share this one story. This other story he relayed. This one I remember me, my brother, and all my cousins when I was like 10, around that age 10. I remember he told all of us, and he said when he was young, he was like he went to this younger kid in school, and he was in like middle school, like he was in grade 4. He went to a kid in grade 3, and in front of all his friends in grade 4, for no reason, he just slapped this younger grade, And when my grandfather did this in front of his friends were like, all right, respect, it's like God giving him like Godfather movie level of respect, But then he told all of us, he said that when he left school and he was walking by this newspaper stand, he goes there, and in Iran there's just, there's newspaper booths, and so he went there standing looking at this newspaper, and the owner of the newspaper booth, for some reason, was already super angry and comes up to him and slaps him in the face. Slaps him for no reason, slaps this kid in the face. So slaps like my grandfather in the face, and my grandfather was like, don't hurt people, holy shit. Like he didn't say that, but like he said, don't, whatever you do energetically, you're inputting something, you're programming something into the realm that is going to specifically to how your mind put the moment forth, it comes back. It's like there's boomerang. Our efforts also boomerang sometimes. Anyways, we just care for the world, because what else can we do? The species will probably, I would give it maybe like 600 years, has to be, we're gonna feel like soldiers in the trenches of our civilization's lack of concern for its collective evolution. From this battlefield of just unknown variables and known and unknown variables, it's as if we just pilot. That means pilot your realm, be a pillar for civilization, whoever you are, wherever you are, and don't think of it that you are serving people. Start serving moments. I will tell you I would say that's the person, that's truly a spiritual person. They can see more than their desires, and that is why. Because when you get over desire and fear, they're just two sides of the same coin. You desire because you fear the future being different, and a person fears because they desire something else. Of your eyes are beyond these eyes. as we advance civilization by advancing communication in our minds as human beings in the linguistic simulation, the video game, multidimensional linguistics in the language video game, we're going to, in some sense, be way ahead of our time. Being timeless is too ahead of the time, you know? That means it's right now doesn't serve like a bunch of people in society being like, we're all timeless. You know, it's like, hey, get to work, you know? It's all about we are timeless because we're using time and space as symbolic technologies to pinpoint a narrative where we can do something in. Whoever you are, if you have sought the honor of the individual, now seek the honor of the collective. Once you find the honor of the collective, you will see the collective is seeking the honor of all, that which is beyond everything. So when you are standing on the shoulder of the giant known as humanity in the future, then you will see why I'm saying multidimensionality. It's like, okay, we just pulled this curtain and our freedom is right there. We are the flame that keeps the glow of freedom. Yeah. Thanks for listening.